Your electric vehicle is a colossal, coal-powered hypocrite and is worse for the environment than I.C.E. cars. That is the single most controversial truth in the auto industry. Well, at least for the first 2 years of the car's life. You've heard the talking points: zero tailpipe emissions, saving the planet, happy dolphins. But we're not buying the press release. We're going deep into the life cycle assessment of an EV versus a gas car. Over a realistic 20-year lifespan, we're tracking the carbon from the moment the shovel hits the dirt for the raw materials, through manufacturing, all the way to the junkyard. We're going to find out how long it actually takes for an EV to earn its green badge, and what the real hidden costs are. If you own an EV, are thinking about one, or just want to shut down that one obnoxious guy at the next car meet, you need to understand the data. By the end of this video, you will know the precise scenarios where a gasoline car is unbelievably the cleaner choice, and why the next wave of battery recycling will change everything you thought you knew about the automotive future. Let's not mince words. When you buy a brand new EV, you are buying into an emissions debt. Right now, the manufacturing phase is the electric car's biggest environmental hurdle. While a traditional sedan rolls off the assembly line with a relatively modest carbon footprint, your EV, especially one with a big, long-range battery, is a beast. The battery alone can account for nearly half of the car's initial embodied emissions. We're talking about the energy-intensive process of mining lithium, nickel, and cobalt, and then baking them into a complex 1,000-pound pack. Simply put, building the battery for a big EV is significantly more CO2 than building an engine, transmission, and fuel tank combined. Research consistently shows that an EV starts its life with anywhere from 40% to 80% higher manufacturing emissions than its gasoline counterpart. This leads to the question that haunts every environmentally minded gearhead. When do I break even? Through charging. This is where the EV gets its revenge. Once it's on the road, the gasoline car becomes a massive rolling exhaust pipe that releases emissions constantly. The EV, however, benefits from one of the most significant efficiencies in modern engineering: the power plant. It is fundamentally cleaner and more efficient for a single, centralized power plant, or even a moderately dirty one, to generate electricity than it is for millions of individual, inefficient ICE engines to burn gasoline. EVs are also incredibly efficient, using only about 1/4 of the energy a comparable gasoline car uses to travel the same distance. This efficiency allows the EV to quickly start paying down that initial carbon debt. In the best case scenario, you live somewhere with a clean, renewable energy grid. Think hydro-powered Norway or nuclear wind-powered France. The EV achieves carbon parity with the gasoline car in as little as 6 months to 1 year of driving, or around 17,000 kilometers. That's your first oil change. In the average scenario, for drivers in the US or Europe with the current average energy mix, the break-even point is typically between 1.5 and 2 years of driving. The worst-case scenario is the one that fuels the clickbait. If you bought a huge battery EV and charged it exclusively on a grid powered almost entirely by lignite coal, your break-even point could be delayed to 5 years or more of heavy driving. But here's the killer stat. Even in this worst-case scenario, over the projected 20-year lifespan of the vehicle, the EV is still the cleaner option, often reducing lifetime emissions by over 50% compared to an average gasoline car. The CO2 curve for the I.C.E. car just climbs too fast and too high. So modern life cycle models predict an EV will last 15 to 20 years, not because of a fragile battery, but because the mechanical components are robust. The electric motor is rated for well over 1 million miles. The battery packs themselves are proving incredibly durable, often retaining 70 to 80% of their capacity after the standard 8-year warranty. But what happens at year 20? This brings us to the recycling paradox. We're told a 95% recovery rate of valuable materials like nickel and cobalt is possible. And it is, in a perfect, optimized, lab-controlled facility. The reality is messy. We have 3 massive challenges. First, safety and logistics. These are fire risk batteries. They're huge, heavy, and require specialized, expensive transport to centralized facilities. Second, chemistry chaos. Every automaker has a different battery chemistry, such as nickel, manganese, cobalt or NMC, lithium iron phosphate or LFP, and nickel, cobalt, aluminum or NCA. And the pack designs are wildly different. This makes standardization for efficient automated recycling impossible right now. It's a custom job every time. Third, the profit trap. As automakers move toward cheaper, lower cobalt LFP batteries to cut costs, the immediate financial incentive for recyclers to strip out high-value metals decreases. The 95% recovery goal is a destination, not a current fact. But its importance cannot be overstated. Achieving high recycling rates transforms the entire life cycle of the EV from a linear, mining-dependent system into a true, closed-loop system, reducing the overall emissions debt of new batteries by potentially 40%. Now, let's get real about you, the driver. We know the car is mechanically sound for 2 decades, but will you keep it that long? Probably not. An EV's greatest weakness isn't its motor, it's the tech cycle. We're calling this the smartphone problem. Think about the first generation 2008 Tesla Roadster. Amazing for its time, but its 300-kilometer range and slow charging look ancient next to today's 500-kilometer, 800-volt charging monsters. The pace of battery and software innovation is so fast that every 2 years, the new EV is dramatically superior to the old one. This creates 2 types of owners. First-hand owners trade up early. Most early adopters are technology geeks, like us, who will trade in their 3 to 5-year-old EV for the next tech leap. Second-hand owners of used EVs are the real heroes. Early depreciation creates golden opportunities. That obsolete used EV is still an extremely reliable, low-maintenance car that is now affordable for a second or third owner. These second-hand buyers are the true environmental champions. They drive the car for the next 10 to 15 years, maximizing the distance traveled and fully exploiting the low operational emissions, ultimately locking in the vehicle's net environmental benefit. The EV's mechanical durability makes this long chain of ownership possible, which is exactly what the 20-year I.C.E. model relies on. So, where does that leave the tree-hugging auto geek? The data is definitive. Over a 20-year life, the EV wins the emissions war, typically by a margin of 50 to 75% over a comparable I.C.E. vehicle. Its operational cleanliness simply crushes the I.C.E. car's constant tailpipe pollution. But here is the final, controversial truth to think about. The single dirtiest electric car in the world is the one that was never driven far enough. If you bought a large battery EV and only put 10,000 miles on it before selling it for the latest model, you did more environmental damage than someone who kept their boring, decades-old Toyota Prius hybrid running on fumes for the full 20 years. The real enemy of sustainability isn't the battery. It's the obsolescence and consumption cycle that we, the drivers, enable. Maybe the cleanest car isn't the one with the smallest carbon footprint, but the one you never replace.